Welcome guys, this is your friend Naruto Addict 3.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. What if Naruto and Sakura were dating secretly and married her part 1? And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. Now let's start the fanfic. Sakura-chan. Naruto's voice was blood-curdling as his hand snapped out in a futile attempt to save her. His deep crystal blue eyes were filled with fear, something she had never seen in him before. His chakra focused all into the soles of his feet, but he wouldn't be able to do that for long, he was too worn out from the battle. Sakura threw her hand up and their palms grazed each other. A small flicker of hope, maybe, just maybe. But the hand on her ankle furiously ripped her away. The last thing engraved in her mind was Naruto's eyes, so pure and blue like the color of the sky after a storm. Sasuke pulled her down into the cavern, towards her inevitable demise. Sakura snapped up in bed covered in a thick film of sweat, awakening violently from the nightmare. She had been having these horrible dreams for the past 3 months, all varying in settings and all of them surrounding the same topic, her death. Sakura slowed her breathing down, hoping that her fits didn't wake her neighbor. Her apartment was of a middle-class modern architecture, but the walls weren't exactly soundproof. So she would need to keep her voice down, no matter how much she wanted to scream. Her heart gradually slowed its pace down to a steady beat and Sakura wiped her sweaty brow. She sighed to find that her sheets and her clothes were once again soaked in her sweat. Frustrated and still horribly tired, she bundled the sheets into a soggy cotton mess. I can't keep this up. She quickly changed her sleepwear and a groan escaped from her mouth as she threw her sheets and clothes onto the empty line dangling outside from her window, the usual routine these past few months. Thankfully there was a strong wind blowing through Konoha tonight. This was almost as embarrassing as when she used to wet her bed sheets when she was 7. The kunoichi still got crap about it from the stupid Ino pig every now and then. Even though she and her friends were well past childhood, Sakura would be turning 20 in the next few months. Now that she had thought about it, the only one that would stick up for her whenever Ino, or anyone for that matter, brought that up was and still is Naruto. He would have just smiled his wide boyish grin and said, "That's alright, Sakura-chan." Sakura-chan. She snapped up from her thoughts, her head hitting the top of the window. She held in her scream by clamping her teeth on her tongue. The familiar metallic flavor of her blood invaded her taste buds, leaving an unpleasant, tangy residue. She looked out of her window to see Naruto looking up at her with the most quizzical look. "Nay, Sakura-chan, what are you doing up so early?" Sakura clenched her fist tightly, restraining herself from punching another hole into her apartment. Her super already wasn't too keen on having a shinobi like her living in his apartments, but she was a stable resident and no one in their right mind would pass up a reliable income. Though, she couldn't blame him for being wary about having a shinobi as a resident. They weren't usually as reliable with payments as Sakura was, considering they would be gone for months at a time on missions and sometimes not get a mission for weeks on end. But with Sakura working at the hospital, she could count on a steady income. And being a Junin didn't hurt, either. "I could ask you the same question," she muttered, pulling on the clothesline so her garments caught the strongest part of the wind. She looked to the clock to see the time, 1:30 a.m. Seemed to be that these nightmares were waking her up earlier and earlier. Her characteristic emerald eyes looked back down at Naruto and Sakura sighed. "I couldn't sleep." She couldn't tell him about her dreams, he wouldn't understand Kami, Sakura couldn't understand herself. In her dreams, it wasn't always the Uchiha bringing about her demise, but he had been quite a bit of a main character in the past few weeks. Sasuke. The Uchiha had stumbled through the gates of Konoha with wounds cascading all around his body. Even though he was in such critical condition, Sakura would never forget that smile of pure relief. It shocked her to see the self-proclaimed Avenger act so childlike. Even when they were younger, he would never have shown such adolescent-like happiness. It took a month for all of his wounds to heal, and he always had a close eye kept on him by the Hokage and her apprentice. Finally, He told his old teammates during one of their regular visits that he killed his brother and that it was the most wonderful and the worst moment of his life. He said little since then. But it's not like he spoke that much to Sakura anyway. The Uchiha had since become a Chunin, but Tsunade Shiso was extremely reluctant to let him advance to Junin despite his obvious skills. He had never said one word of defiance. In fact, to Sakura's surprise, her teammate just continued with his rigorous training. It seemed she wasn't the only one that Naruto had affected over the years with his incessant willpower. It was amazing to Sakura that her feelings for the Uchiha had waned through the years. Sure, there were those small moments where she would catch herself looking at Sasuke, thinking, what if? But then reality would come smacking her in the face. It was only too obvious that he would not love her the way she wanted to be loved. And over the past several years, she learned to stop liking him and was learning to love herself first. Sakura blinked away her thoughts and looked to the Uzumaki to see a smile curve his lips, his eyes smoothing under the moonlight as if in knowing. In the past 8 years, Naruto had grown as a shinobi Junin since last year, alongside her, and as a man. He of course still had his moments that make Sakura want to punch him in his frontal lobes, but for some reason, that just made him much more fun to be around. Naruto matured greatly thanks to his years of training with Jiraiya and his daily training that even rivaled that of his dark-haired friend. Sakura would spar with him every Friday, and it was thanks to him that she passed her Junin exam. If he hadn't given her pointers, she'd still be Chunin. Sakura's eyes scanned Naruto's body, taking in his tall frame and lean muscles. Sometimes, to Sakura's surprise, when they were resting after their training together, she would catch herself staring at Naruto's body. She didn't know what to make of it. Maybe because he and Sasuke were the only guys her age she was around all the time. But she never really stared at Sasuke like she would Naruto because the Uchiha would catch her and call her on it. So either Naruto didn't notice, or didn't care. It wasn't as if Sakura hadn't seen a man before. She was a medic nin, so of course she was familiar with the anatomy of the human body. But that was for science. She had never, in all of her life, touched a man that way before. It made her blush just thinking about it. Sure, she had been kissed before once or twice, and neither of them memorable, but she was still a virgin. And it seemed her friend Ino would never let that go. Sakura, tonight, we're going to get you laid. Ino, please stop it. I don't want to have with some drunken man I don't even know. Well then let's grab some man you do know. Ino. Sakura, you need to stop holding onto your damn virginity like it's a precious flower. Believe me, once you get it over with you'll be cursing yourself blue that you've waited so long. Hey, how about Genma? He'll do anything with tits and a. Ino. Okay. How about Neji? No, 1010 would kill you. Lee. I would never forgive you. If not Sasuke, then, oh. How about Naruto? What? Yeah, that's perfect. I'm only too sure that he's still a virgin. God knows he's still head over heels for you. It's only perfect to do it with him. Ino, you know I don't like him that way. Are you sure about that? Billboard brow. What are you talking about, Ino pig? Of course I don't think you even notice yourself. Sakura shook her head of the disturbing memory and looked back to the Uzumaki. Do you want to come with me? Naruto said simply, ignoring the fact that they were both awake at an insane hour. Naruto, the kunoichi contemplated his words. She had work at 6 and from the looks of last night, it was going to be another 18-hour shift. But she wasn't going back to sleep at this rate anyway, tired or not. Okay. The smile that came across his face could only be described as pure happiness. The pink-haired woman smiled as she jumped out of her apartment window and landed softly onto the ground next to him. So why are you out so late, Naruto? Naruto. What is it? The orange and black-clad shinobi looked stunned. What was he looking at? Sakura-chan, your clothes, the lightest shade of pink colored Naruto's cheeks forced Sakura took a look at herself. She had on a tank top with thin straps, and a pair of okami. She looked back up to see the tiniest start of a nosebleed on her friend's face and instantly she reacted. With a swift punch to the blonde's cranium, Sakura growled, "Pervert," and jumped back through her window. She raced to her dresser, yanking open one of the drawers and pulling out a pair of sweats. Usually when Sakura got home she was too tired to take a shower, so she would strip her clothes down to her underwear and just sleep in them, leaving the shower till the morning. She never had an incident like this before because she was generally lucid enough to put some pants on. But with those dreams running through her mind, it was hard to concentrate in most situations lately. Thanks to her absent-mindedness, Naruto just got a poster shot of her rather scantily designed panties, black lace with roses all along the sides, a gift from Ino. Make good use of those, billboard brow. Those babies are not for only you to look at. Sakura fought down a blush as she met back up with Naruto, who thankfully had regained his composure, but had a somewhat sheepish look on his face. Gomenasai. He cleared his throat and began to walk down the street, saying nothing else about what happened. Sakura followed along, thankful for his ability to move on from one topic to another. While she kept her eyes on the ground, Naruto's blue orbs drew upwards. He lifted his arms and rested them behind his head in a gesture very similar to their old sensei, Kakashi. Sakura smiled lightly about the traits Naruto picked up over the years. It was amazing how strong both he and Sasuke have become. While Sakura herself had turned into quite the elite ninja, she knew that when in a fight against either of the two, she would lose. She wished that she could surpass them. And even with Sasuke legally as a Chunin, there was no doubt that his level was Junin status ranking to that of Anbu. But there was no way Tsunade Shiso would allow that. Not after what he did to the village. He nearly killed Naruto and Sakura in battle. So why are you out here? She broke the silence between them in an attempt to snap her mind away from her thoughts. She knew they would eventually lead her back to her nightmares of death. Couldn't sleep? Sakura nodded softly at his answer but pondered his real reason for being out here. Naruto was the heavy sleeping kind of shinobi, unless something provoked him to get up. Like someone's death, or ramen. But nothing else short of that could really make him wake up. As if on psychic cue, do you wanna grab some ramen? Is Ichiraku open this late? They're open till 5 in the morning on Fridays. People from the bars drink late and eat late. Leave it to Naruto to memorize the hours for his favorite ramen shop. He probably can draw an exact blueprint replica of the establishment, having been there so many times. Sakura nodded in agreement and a wide-toothy grin sprouted on the shinobi's face. All right. He grabbed Sakura's hand and hauled her off to Ichiraku. Have you seen Kakashi-sensei lately? Sakura sipped idly from her cup of green tea, her thoughts straying to her former sensei. Last time she saw him was at the local bar during her birthday. I heard that he's on an A- rank mission escorting some spoiled son of a bitch politician. Sakura nodded. Of course, the Junin never liked hanging around for long, doing nothing. Come on, baby, let's stop and get something to eat, a voice barked from behind the two ninja. Sakura felt her skin ripple in annoyance of the disturbance. The lack of manners today irked her to no end. The man entered and took a seat next to Sakura, gesturing to his companion to take a seat beside him at the open-air restaurant. Sakura looked away from the man and focused on her drink, hoping he would eat quickly and leave. Oi, Tuki, 2 bowls of your pork ramen. The disgusting man belched and Sakura opened her mouth to yell at him, but she froze. Hey, billboard brow, what are you doing here? Ino walked towards her, stumbling along the way. Thankfully she caught herself on the bar top. Whoops. I guess I should be more caarrr refool. Hey. She was plastered, that enough was evident to Sakura. And from the looks of things, this guy was on his way to getting laid by her infamously raunchy friend. Sakura was confused because as far as she knew, her friend was engaged to Shikamaru. Why would she be out drinking alone looking to sleep with someone? Something must have happened. Sakura rolled her eyes. Ino and Shikamaru probably had a fight and Ino went to go piss him off. The kunoichi had to stop this. If Ino had her any shred of her reasoning in her, there wouldn't be a chance in hell she'd sleep with this scumbag. If Sakura knew anything about her best friend, she knew that she loved that lazy genius of a shinobi. Ino, what are you doing? Do you know this guy? Sakura tested the waters, figuring just how lucid she was. Sakura, don't be silly, I don't rope pie. Ino, Naruto, finally taking a breath from his ramen, caught on to what was happening. Maybe you should sit down over here. Naruto stood, and gestured for their friend to take a seat. The kunoichi however shook her head in a drunken defiance. No, no. Ino took a step towards her male companion. I'm perfectly She stumbled and in a flash Sakura caught her. The pink-haired woman lifted her friend and wrapped her arm around her shoulder, supporting most of her weight. Let's get you home, pig. You're gone. Now wait a minute, Pinky. Pinky. Sakura turned around to see the scumbag of a drunkard glaring two bloodshot eyes directly at her. The man stood and pointed a thick finger inches from her nose. Who said you could take my woman away from me? Your woman. She's not your property. Besides, she's engaged. The kunoichi could feel her anger building up in her. Her hands were dangerously itching to punch this guy to kingdom come. She said nothing about, hey, man, she's obviously not going to sleep with you. Naruto could sense Sakura's fury and was quick to step in between the two. I spent half my paycheck on her drinks. She owes me a good time. It's not her fault you're an idiot. Sakura's voice wavered in her straining calm. She was doing everything in her power to quell her rage. But this man was just fanning the flames. The man took a good hard look at Sakura and his eyes dropped down to her chest. A disgusting smile came across his face. Well, would you like to show me a good time, Cherry? A loud crack sounded as Naruto's fist connected with the man's jaw. His body flew out of the restaurant and into the street, landing with a satisfying thump. Sakura looked to Naruto and saw his eyes locked onto the man, his lips pulled back in a snarl. The filthy drunk stumbled onto his knees and looked back to the ramen bar in confusion and anger. Who the? In a blur of orange and black, Naruto rushed after the man and picked him up by the collar roughly. Never talk to Sakura-chan like that. Ever. His normally cheerful face darkened. Do you understand me? A look of pure fear came over the man's face as he looked over to Sakura, but Naruto shook him. His hold on his greasy shirt becoming tighter and his words shot through his clenched jaw, don't even look at her. The man nodded with a shaky head and the Uzumaki threw him to the ground. Sakura stood where she was, in a daze. She watched Naruto walk calmly back towards her and offer to help support Ino. Sakura nodded and he lifted the other limp arm about his broad shoulders and the three, seeing as one was incapacitated, walked off. They took Ino back to her apartment not too far from the ramen shop. Sakura was relieved at that moment that Shikamaru and Ino didn't live together. Otherwise it would have been a much more complicated situation. After she laid Ino onto her bed, Sakura placed a glass of water and 2 aspirin tablets on her bedside table for her friend to consume when she would wake. She was going to have one hell of a hangover the next day. Sakura shook her head and left her friend to her sleep. Thankfully, Ino Pig didn't damage anything other than her pride. Sakura gave her a quick check through. Ino should be thankful to have a medic nin for a best friend. Outside, Naruto waited patiently, a calm look on his face. He looked up and smiled widely at Sakura once she stepped out of Ino's apartment. Do you think Shikamaru will be mad? The pink-haired woman took a deep breath and shook her head. No. As much as he puts up a disinterested front, he really does care about her. She could pretty much get away with murder if Shikamaru had any say in it. A silence spread between the two. Sakura moved to take a spot next to Naruto, sitting atop the railing of the porch. Ino lived on the 3rd floor, and to her right, the kunoichi could see Ichiraku with its lights still buzzing with life and drunk customers. Sakura looked over to Naruto. Why did you do that, baka? Naruto his head to the side and a confused look came across his tan face. Do what? You know very damn well what I'm talking about. Her lingering anger was piling up once more because of his stupidity. He was infuriatingly dense. I was only defending you, Sakura-chan. That guy was a complete bastard. His sincerity broke through Sakura and she sighed in defeat. Naruto made it so hard to be angry at him sometimes. Of course there were times she wanted to rip his throat out, but it just seemed like Naruto knew how to push the right buttons to piss her off or to make her calm. She could swear that he did it on purpose. Sakura-chan, you've changed a lot these past few years, you know. Sakura looked to him and saw that his blue eyes were concentrated on her. He looked so serious that she found herself flustered. She looked away and shrugged. Yeah. She laughed. I can't leave all the growing to you and Sasuke. I need to boost up a few levels too. Her face saddened at the thought of always being behind the two. She had worked so hard these past 8 years to even be at the same level as those two, but sometimes it seemed like she would never be on par with the Uchiha or the Uzumaki. I better get back to my home, Naruto. Nani? Sakura-chan, you want to leave? He was about to protest, but thought better of it. Let me walk you back home. He stood, his tall, muscular frame towering over the kunoichi. No need. I'm not a little girl anymore, baka. I can take care of myself. She didn't put too much emotion into it, but it was understood all the same. She just wasn't in the mood to be with someone at the moment. Naruto nodded, still unsure of what made her upset. He looked torn, but Sakura took off before he could change his mind. She brushed her fingers through her cherry blossom locks, sighing. She needed to clear her mind before she went back to work, or her distraction would have dangerous consequences. Maybe some running would help her clear her mind, but once she thought it over for a moment, the thought of going to another 18-hour shift after running for a few hours, it didn't seem too appealing. So the kunoichi decided to settle for meditation. Haruno, you're needed in the maternity ward. Sakura was surprised. She expected a long busy day rushing between the ER and OR, but she hadn't stepped into either today. Instead, she had been changing from the nursery to the maternity ward. Looks like she would be leaving early today if this was all she was going to do. I'm on my way. She motioned to the intern next to her to take over changing the infant who lied upon the diaper station in front of her. The young man looked from the baby to Sakura and promptly turned green. Sakura rolled her eyes, quickly changing the infant and handing him to the intern. This is the least of your problems, Kyo. Just stick around and you'll get used to the scent. It's not so bad after a few weeks. Yes, Haruno-san. He muttered in shame. And with that, the medic nin took off in a rush to the maternity ward. Sakura. Shizune walked briskly to Sakura's side and handed her a clipboard. You have a patient in room 304B. And afterward, the dark-haired woman paused, thinking over her next words. Tsunade-sama wants to see you. Come to her office right after you finish with this patient. The pink-haired medic nin and eyebrow in nodded. She wondered what Tsunade Shiso wanted with her now. Sakura opened the door to 304B and was met with a rosy face and pale eyes. Hello, Sakura-chan. Hinata. The dark-haired kunoichi smiled shyly while she placed her hands gently upon her blooming stomach. It was only last year that the Hyuga girl was married to none other than her teammate Kiba, and not too long after, was expecting. What a surprise to see you here. Where is Kiba? Isn't he usually with you during anything related to the baby? It was absolutely romantic to Sakura that the Inuzuka followed Hinata like a puppy whenever she needed him. She couldn't blame him. In their profession, people die young and it was usual to get married and have children at their age. Even Sakura, still a blushing virgin, found herself from time to time just watching the babies in the nursery. Just wondering what the future will bring her. A husband, children, and a family. Suddenly her mind darkened with the images from her nightmares of the previous months, blood spilling, screams ripping through her skin, and her body lying still and cold. If those were anything close to premonitions. No, not now. Sakura placed the clipboard onto the counter beside her and embraced the Hyuga girl in a tight hug. It had been a while since she had seen her Kami. It had been a while since she had seen anyone besides Naruto and Ino because of her erratic hours at the hospital. It was nice to have a social life every now and then. Well, he's with Naruto-kun outside, actually. I told him to stay outside. I wanted to see you. Hinata fiddled with her long violet hair and looked down at her shoes, a habit that the Hyuga still had trouble breaking. Naruto's here. Sakura smiled, picturing the orange-clad shinobi joking loudly in front of the hospital with his friend. She inwardly rolled her eyes and led Hinata to the long cushioned seat for patients, motioning for her to sit. The woman complied and nodded in answer. He's supposed to meet the Hokage soon. Sakura's eyes slightly widened. So Tsunade Shiso called for the both of them. Something must be up. Alright. Sakura concentrated her mind once more. How have you been feeling? Better. Those exercises that you taught me are really helping with my back pain and swelling feet. I just wanted to see how the twins were doing. I'm in the 3rd trimester already, and I want to make sure they're alright. I'm sure they're doing fine with a caring mom like you. Sakura smiled. Let's just lean you back and check on the 3 of you, then. Sakura turned around and picked up her basic tools for the procedure, and she worked through the checkup, all of this like breathing to her now. She enjoyed her job so much, helping people in all stages of their life. So many of her friends have moved into the marital phase of their life that she felt like she was 12 again, walking behind Naruto and Sasuke, watching them rise to their potential. She was the bud of a flower again while everyone else was in full bloom. Sakura sighed, pushing her thoughts away. Sakura-chan. I guess Tsunade-ba-chan wants to see all 3 of us, huh? 3. Sakura looked behind Naruto to see the dark-haired Uchiha leaning against the wall of the entrance to Tsunade Shiso's office. This must be a mission then, Sakura thought to herself. Well, it would be a nice change of scenery. She hadn't had a mission for a good 3 months, and every now and then her body would itch with the sense of wanderlust. Hey, Tem, this should be a good change of pace, right? What do you think we're gonna do? Do you think we'll be going anywhere interesting? I hope it's past the border. Naruto gasped. Maybe we're going on a secret mission to retrieve a jewel from some drug lord in the Bear Country. Calm down, Dobi. Your imagination will kill you. Sasuke walked towards Sakura and Naruto, his dark eyes roaming disinterestedly over the pair. Suddenly the doors to Tsunade Shiso's office opened, and a frustrated-looking Shizune stood to the side of the entrance. You 3 come in now. Oh no. Sakura looked from Naruto to Sasuke. Both took in the assistant's appearance, but did not let it get to them. Sakura walked in, side by side with the 2, and stood before a grim-looking Hokage. Close the door, Shizune. The blonde-haired head ninja spoke in a firm voice. There was a silence that elapsed in the room, covering Sakura's ears almost painfully. I wanted this to seem like a normal meeting, so as not to bring any special attention to it. You 3 are here for one reason and one reason only. It was at that moment Tsunade-sama took a pause to look between the 3 of them, her brown eyes sharpening when they rested on Sasuke. Protection. Her face darkened as she pulled out a scroll and handed it to Naruto. You are to get to your destination as fast as you can, as quietly as you can, and come back successfully. I will not go into any further details. You are to memorize that scroll and burn it. You leave in 2 hours. She sat down in her seat and took out a large dark bottle and a small glass. Sakura could already sense what was coming, so she bowed immediately and motioned for her teammates to follow. Tsunade was in one hell of a mood, and she was about to drink her weight in sake. The kunoichi cringed at the memories of when her teacher would become much more aggressive during their training due to her drunken state. Sakura stood next to Naruto with Sasuke on his other side. All 3 were staring in disbelief at the scroll. Naruto rolled the scroll back up and threw it against the nearest tree. I don't get it. What's so top secret about this crap? Sasuke growled through his clamped teeth, and Sakura inwardly groaned. It seemed to be that Tsunade Shiso had lost another bet, and the price was to escort a caravan to the port near the border between Fire and River Country, a simple mission that could be done by genin ninjas. But apparently they requested Junin-level shinobi. Their goods were apparently of great importance to them. But all that was written on the caravan list were some flowers. Well, Sakura picked up the discarded scroll and looked at its contents once more. At least we get to see the ocean. She sighed in defeat. There was no other way to look at this except a wasted of a mission on high-leveled ninja. What was Tsunade Shiso thinking? Hey, you're right, Sakura-chan. Naruto suddenly brightened and instantly that familiar toothy grin appeared on his face. We could stay a little bit longer there. She didn't say anything about coming back quickly. Just get there and come back successfully. Holy crap. For once, Dobi, you're right. Sasuke smirked as Naruto glared at Sasuke at the nickname he dubbed to his friend. A vacation, Sakura smiled lightly. She would love to have some vacation time for once. And from the looks of this mission, it was going to be a piece of cake. And she gets to spend her time with her teammates. What better way to get rid of the stress from work and her sleepless nights than going to the beach? Sakura smiled happily knowing that this might be the start of a happier chapter. Hello, my name is Tama Nakamura. I hope we will get along during this journey together. Sakura shouldn't be angry. She should be calm, happy, and all those blissful emotions should be filling her during this simple mission. But Naruto could at least close his goddamn mouth. Although Sasuke was a little more discreet about it, it was clear that both men were staring at their new traveling companion, Tama. A beautiful woman of 23, with dark hair, dark, sultry eyes, and a body that Sakura would kill for. Sakura was by no means flat anymore, thankfully. She was a late bloomer, with her C-cup-sized chest and what she thought were obvious curves. But compared to this woman, she was as flat as a board. Tama had more curves than that of Tsunade Shiso, for Kami's sake. And she obviously had no problem with flaunting what she had. She wore a black halter that stopped quite a few inches above her navel, and long, black skirt with 2 slits that reached all the way up her legs. Hello, Tama. I'm Sakura, and these two are Sasuke and Naruto. Sakura kept her anger at bay. There was no reason to be mad at their charge, she had done nothing to them. However, once Tama was to turn around, the kunoichi would let her fists fly towards her teammates and give them a real reason to have their noses bleed. Sakura, is it? Tama's dark eyes scanned Sakura's body, instantly making her feel self-conscious. The pink-haired woman sighed and reassured herself that she was the experienced ninja here, and that there was no reason to feel inferior to this other woman. Even if she had made her 2 male teammates, jaws drop and noses gush with blood. You're very beautiful. Tama approached Sakura and touched her shoulder-length locks lightly. Interesting hair color. It is natural, no? Sakura could feel both gazes from her teammates on her and she instantly wanted to punch them. She never felt so aggravated over something so trivial. She was acting the part of a jealous girlfriend and it was absolutely ridiculous. Shouldn't we get going? Sakura felt slightly uncomfortable with the woman touching her so freely. Yes, I supposed we should. Tama turned around and led the 3 shinobi towards the wagon that they would be guarding. When the woman moved, the chain of miniature symbols around her hips made a light ringing throughout the air, drawing attention to the lower half of her body. Sakura took the chance to stomp harshly on both of her comrades' feet. They winced in pain and took the not-so-subtle hint that their behavior was not acceptable. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. My father is ill and I am the only one able to read and write to do the transactions once at the port. This cargo really is important to my family, no matter how simple it may seem. The older woman walked towards the back of the cart and drew back the thin partition, revealing cases upon cases of foreign purple flowers. My family and I make a living by selling the nectar of these flowers. They serve as a powerful potion. More specifically, it is used to attract the opposite. You sell love potions? Sasuke seemed incredulous, almost mocking the woman. Yes, Tama seemed unfazed by the Uchiha's cynical tone. My family is a part of a tribe of gypsies up north. We make most of our money in potions, fortune-telling, and belly dancing. There was a sparkle in the woman's eye at the last part and a small smile appeared on her face. Sasuke grunted and Sakura noticed Naruto wipe his brow and laugh lightly in response. Sakura rolled her eyes at the pervert. It was no surprise with the student of Jiraiya, Baka. Let's get going. Sakura wanted to get to the port as fast as humanly possible. It seemed that this so-called vacation was going to be giving her more stress than a double shift at the hospital would. Nay, Sakura-chan, look over here. Naruto waved happily about 20 feet ahead of her, pointing wildly to a log on the ground. Sakura inwardly rolled her eyes but couldn't help the smile that grew on her face. There was an obvious change in the three shinobi once they left the village. They were all anxious to leave and go somewhere outside of Konoha. Even Sasuke had a slightly happier disposition, his eyes not so cynical every time they met another human being. The sun had already made its way across the sky and was about to nestle behind the mountains that lied ahead of the travelers. The day's journey was by no means tiring, but they knew that they wouldn't be able to guide the oxen-driven cart for too longer. The animals were going to need their rest. What is it, Naruto? Sakura kept her pace with the wagon. This might be a simple mission, but it was a mission nonetheless. They were to protect Tama and her cargo, and Sakura would give it 150%. The Uzumaki ran over, his hand clutching something Sakura couldn't make out. As soon as he reached her, he held out his hand and opened it to reveal a black and orange snake that sinuously wrapped around the shinobi's fingers, its forked tongue flickering towards Sakura. We match, right? All of the air in Sakura's lungs shot of her mouth in one blow and her face paled to an astonishing white. Sakura wasn't scared of much, but snakes proudly took the top 5. Get that away from me, Baka. Surprisingly, she didn't hit Naruto, but she jumped clear across and over the wagon in one fluid jump. Her back arched as her body grazed the top of the wagon. She landed on her feet with a soft thud and her breath returned slowly yet surely. Snakes gave her the creeps ever since Orochimaru. Suddenly the scene around her changed and her mind's eye rippled in a blur of colors. This felt wrong and all too familiar simultaneously. Sakura stood shaking. Her chakra was depleting rapidly. She wasn't going to last not even for a minute more. Her green eyes scanned the empty meadow, but she couldn't see him. Then the kunai came, pelting her every limb, covering her body in unbelievable pain. Her blood rained down onto the ground, softening the soil to a muddy mess below her. Sakura! His voice called out of the open air. Sakura! 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 The kunoichi stumbled and fell to her knees, her hands running vigorously over her body. What the hell was that? A nightmare. But she wasn't asleep, it was still daytime. Sakura! What's wrong with you? Sasuke stood in front of her, his eyes scrutinizing her like she was slacking during this simple-minded mission. She stood straight to compose herself and looked to Sasuke. Nothing. I'm fine. It was just a snake Naruto showed me. I don't like snakes. Sakura figured Sasuke could relate to something like that, considering his past. She herself didn't understand what was wrong with her and there was no reason to involve anyone else in something as childish as a nightmare. At least she hoped not. The Uchiha said nothing more, but his eyes stayed on Sakura for longer than she would have liked. He slowed down, regaining his pace once he was behind the carriage. Sakura picked up her pace and walked beside their charge, Tama, who sat leading the oxen that hauled her cargo. The gypsy's eyes were set upon the pink-haired woman, a curious look about them. What's wrong, Tama? There was a thoughtful pause before she spoke her next words. How long have you been having your nightmares, Sakura? The kunoichi was taken aback. I'm sorry. The woman took a deep breath and looked ahead. We need to rest up ahead. There's a stream and a small clearing. She turned back to Sakura. I would like to speak with you more. Sakura didn't know how to reply. Naruto and Sasuke took off to gather water from the stream that ran smoothly near their campsite, leaving Sakura at the will of the gypsy's inquiries. Sit there. Tama pulled a satchel from her wagon and pointed to the blanket laid out before the fire they built not long ago. Tama, this isn't appropriate. You've been having these nightmares for 3 months, yes. The woman's cymbal bell chimed rhythmically as she led Sakura to the blanket and urged her to sit. All of a sudden, Sakura felt like the patient instead of the medic nin. Tama opened the satchel and pulled out a dark violet silk drawstring bag and placed it in front of her, along with a jar of foreign-looking powder. How did you know that? Sakura's eyes were mesmerized as the gypsy's hands mellifluously moved about, opening the small violet bag and pouring its contents into her hands, stones. It's what I do. Just as you know how to gain the strength of 100 men, I too can gain certain abilities. Sakura's eyes widened with Tama's insightful words. These are holy stones. She held out the smooth, dark pebbles to view. They have been passed down through my family for centuries. They will help me see clearly how to guide you. You know how to get rid of my nightmares. She nodded. A sprig of thyme below your sleeping head and maybe a small stone of amethyst, but first you must see why you are having these dreams. Then and only then will you be able to extinguish the negative energy that's surrounding you. Sakura watched the woman take a deep breath and she tossed the rocks lightly into the air. Her eyes opened, and at the same moment when the rocks connected with the ground, Tama scattered a pinch of the powder from the jar into the fire. The flames sparked into a brilliant white. The gypsy's eyes looked upon the stones and then to Sakura. There is a change of path in your life, something you've seen, but never ventured. Do not be afraid, this will be your pillar of strength. Her eyes darkened suddenly, however, something evil is searching for you. Protect what is close to you at all costs or all is lost. Tama closed her eyes and Sakura looked at the stones. How did she get all that from the way the rocks were laid out? That is all I can tell you. The dreams should stop in due time, but to quell your fears, take these sprigs of thyme and this amulet of amethyst. They will help ward off the nightmares and negative energies surrounding your dreams. Sakura took the dried flowers and the small pinkish rock from the woman and looked incredulously at her. Is that all? The rest is up to you. The woman looked at the slightly disheveled pink-haired girl and smiled lightly. Here. She reached into her satchel and pulled out a small peach-colored fruit. Eat this. It will help you. How? With my dreams? No. Her eyes sparkled. With the other situation. What other situation? Sakura-chan. Is the food done yet? Naruto ran up to two women and Sakura hastily put the objects into her pouch, praying he didn't see what happened. Sasuke followed behind and noted the stones that were laid out between them. Doing a reading. He looked to their charge. I was rather inclined to do a reading for her. Sakura sighed inwardly. Tama wasn't going to say a word about what happened. Silently she thanked her, their eyes meeting knowingly. Here, Sakura-chan. Naruto handed Sakura a small cup of water and the kunoichi gratefully took it, consuming its contents quickly. She promptly got up and moved to serve the fish they caught from the stream. Dobi, there's only 3 cups. Go get another. But, the blonde looked around to see that Sasuke didn't have a cup to drink from. I should have some cups in the back of my wagon if you wish me to get one. Tama made a move to get up, but Sakura stopped her. No, I'll get it. It's right in the back. The woman nodded in response and Sakura made her way to the carriage. She pulled the partition back and reached into the dark wagon, feeling around for a cup. There were so many things back here, how did Tama find anything? Finally her fingers found a simple short brown mug and she pulled it out. Nay. Hurry up, Sakura. Sasuke's getting cranky. You know how he gets when he's thirsty. Well, maybe if Tem here didn't forget how to count to 4. What did you say, bastard? Naruto took a large bite out of his fish. Shut up. The both of you, hey, where did Tama go? Sakura handed Sasuke his cup and looked around for the gypsy. Naruto looked the pink-haired ninja, his mouth full of food. Fi hent ru ta fring. Strangely Sakura understood what he said. Tama probably went to wash. That sounded like a good idea. I'm going to go to the spring to bathe. She whipped her head to the two of them, her eyes sharpening. If I even smell one of you near the two of us, you'll lose a limb. Sasuke nodded, his eyes rolling as he took a drink from the mug Sakura got while Naruto's cheeks reddened. Sakura-chan, I wouldn't dare. Sakura's glare intensified, stopping his protest. Okay, Sakura-chan. It's nice to be clean once in a while, am I right? Tama rinsed her hair in the cool water. Sakura nodded, dunking her entire body into the water and opening her eyes to see some fish swim by. The river was so clean and fresh. Sakura heard Tama's voice from above the surface and she stood to look at her. I'm sorry, she inquired. Were you able to find the cup? Tama stood at the edge of the water wrapped in her robe, running her fingers through her hair. Oh, yes, I got him some brown mug. Sakura got out from the river, drying herself off before she wrapped her thin, but well-absorbing travel towel around her. Brown. Sakura looked up to see Tama's dark eyes widened in shock. What's wrong? Sakura, that mug wasn't. A loud rumble thundered through the small clearing, cutting off the older woman's voice. Sakura-chan. Naruto raced through the trees towards the two girls, his eyes teary and his face pale. Sakura-chan. Sakura-chan. Saakkuuuuraa-chan. Naruto's jacket was torn open, flying wildly about him. Instantly Sakura grabbed her kunai and stood in front of Tama. If something was able to terrify Naruto to tears, it was going to be a serious danger to them both. She wanted to be ready even if she was only in a towel. She could at least put up one hell of a fight. In one shocking move the Uzumaki pounced and wrapped his arms around Sakura in a vice-like grip, his head rubbing furiously into her chest. Sakura-chan, make him stop. What? And suddenly there he was. Sasuke was running full speed towards the three, his eyes focused clearly upon the orange-clad shinobi. Naruto, what did you do? Sakura tried to push Naruto away but he was not letting her go. He moved his body though, so that he was standing behind her making her a makeshift shield. Sasuke stopped a mere 3 feet from them, his eyes looking past Sakura and to his fearful friend. There was something different about the dark-haired man. He was breathless, his chest sporadically rising and falling. And there was a different air about him. Too, his voice was husky and deeper than usual. Look, Sasuke, I don't know what Naruto did, but this isn't the time to fight. They aren't fighting. Sakura looked to see Tama covering her mouth in a fit of laughter. What's going on? The kunoichi was confused to no end. Sasuke bastard all of sudden started tearing at my clothes and Naruto's face went pale. And I don't feel so good. I tried to tell you, Sakura. That wasn't a mug, it was a motor for mixing. It seems to be. Tama approached Sasuke in a few light steps and looked him in the eye. That Sasuke has drunk the love potion. Naruto, there's no need to do this. Sasuke already drank the antidote. Sakura pulled the blanket over her body, relishing in the warmth, but her comfort was soon lost as the Uzumaki plopped inches from her, pulling his own blanket over him. I don't want to take any chances, Sakura-chan. Sakura rolled her eyes, but inside she was grateful for the warmth from his body during this cold winter night. Sasuke already went to sleep, opting for outside the tent they had built, whereas Sakura and Naruto stayed inside the small shelter. Sakura rolled to her side and closed her eyes, trying to focus on anything but the warm body next to her, but now the only thing running through her head was how close he was. She tried to keep reminding herself that this was Naruto for Kami's sake, but she couldn't help the race of her blood and the quickening of her heart. She yelled at herself silently for being affected by something as insignificant as this. She had slept next to these guys before, but something was different. Her mind was just so preoccupied with. She covered her face in shame that she was thinking about Naruto that way. She thought back to that moment Ino brought up her teammate as a possible lover. Billboard brow, you don't even realize how your body reacts when he's around. What do you mean, Ino pig? Sakura knew damn well what she was talking about. For the past several months, her mind had been drifting to not so innocent thoughts about the Uzumaki, doing things with him she never dreamed that she would do. Sometimes she would have trouble with just a simple touch of a hand. Her heart would pound, her skin would tingle, and the lower half of her body would feel as if it were on fire. You're just lucky that he's so oblivious to everything. I swear, half the town is just waiting for you two to fuck already. Ino. I don't. Sakura didn't know how she felt about the Uzumaki anymore. Sometimes she thought she really could fall in love with him. But then there were those times when she thought she couldn't love anyone. Those were moments where she didn't even love herself. She felt Naruto press his body closer to hers and she sat up in a snap. Naruto, you don't need to get so damn close to me. I'm sorry, Sakura-chan, but you seemed cold, and so was I. So I thought that. Well, there's no need, baka. I'm perfectly fine with my blanket alone. Sakura lied back down and grabbed her pouch, quickly placing the sprigs of thyme under her pillow. She hoped that these things would work. If she woke up screaming with Naruto in the same vicinity, she was screwed. All right, Sakura-chan, there was an obvious sense of dejection in his voice, but he complied and scooted away from her. The cold and empty feeling was painfully obvious to Sakura, but she shoved the feeling down and away. She just didn't want to be so preoccupied with a man's body right now. She needed a dreamless sleep for once. Sakura woke up hours later, silencing her scream. This time, it was Senbon torture. She sat up, breathing deep. The stupid flowers didn't work. Nothing would. What about this evil that was searching for Sakura? Was that what the nightmares were forewarning? The kunoichi felt her stomach growl in emptiness and she sighed. She wouldn't be able to get out of the tent without waking the Uchiha outside. She didn't want anyone to know about her dreams. Then she remembered the fruit Tama gave her. It would have to do for now, and didn't she say something about the food helping her somehow? Maybe it would do what the flowers couldn't. Sakura reached into her pouch and pulled out the light pink fruit, taking in its sweet scent. She bit into its flesh, the syrupy yet tart juice filling her senses. A sweet shiver ran down her spine and a warm feeling encompassed her entire body. Sakura took a deep breath as she lied down and closed her eyes once more. She already felt calm. Sakura sat up, looking around, and found Naruto snoring next to her. Suddenly a warm feeling in the pit of her stomach surged through her, and her mind had only one thought in it. She pushed her blanket back and pressed her body close to Naruto's, leaning her lips close to his ear. Her breath blew softly next to him, stirring the man awake. His blue eyes blinked slowly open. Sakura-chan, is it time to go already? He sat up slowly, rubbing the back of his head. Naruto. Sakura's voice was low, and in some tone she never heard herself speak before, pure lust. Her body felt so warm and bubbly. She reached her hand up to Naruto's face and traced her finger gently across his jawline. She could see him shiver and turn to her, his eyes wide. Sakura. She didn't reply. She didn't know what had come over her, but it seemed as if she was possessed. Sakura's eyes didn't even remain locked with Naruto's, for her green orbs dropped down. Take in his tight white shirt, his jacket was tossed aside while he was sleeping. She dropped her hand down onto his chest and pressed her palm into him, feeling his warm skin beneath the thin cloth. His pulse quickened beneath her and she suddenly felt a rush of confidence emerge. She eased her hand down his torso to lift his shirt off, and the man's breath hitched. A devilish grin covered Sakura's face and she tossed the shirt aside. Her hand pressed once more against Naruto's bare chest and she drank in the sight of his well-toned body. The years of training gave him lean muscles and a golden tan. Sakura pushed away the remaining blankets from the both of them and lifted one of her legs over Naruto's body, straddling him. Sakura, he said warily, are you sure? He lost his chance to speak once again as Sakura locked her lips hungrily onto the Uzumaki's. She nipped his lower lip gently with her teeth and he opened his mouth in a gasp. She took the chance and slipped her tongue over his lips, tasting his mouth thoroughly. His scent was ravaging her nostrils, a smoky masculine aroma with the slightest hint of ramen. It was absolutely delicious, and in one fluid moment she broke their kiss, tore away her shirt and threw it aside, revealing a lacy black bra that left little to the imagination. She looked to Naruto to see his eyes darken in what could only be described as lust. What's wrong, Naruto? She teased, tracing his muscles along his abdomen and made her way down the waistband of his pants. Her heartbeat thrummed and as she dipped one of her hands below his pants, she heard a satisfied breath escape from Naruto's mouth in a hiss. She paused and lowered her head, kissing lightly all across his face, along his jawline down to his collarbone, to his chest then his navel. And simultaneously, As she pulled down and away his pants, she bumped a rather hard and warm attachment along the way. Sakura could feel in the pit of her stomach a fire growing. Oh, shit, Sakura, Naruto took her by the waist, flipping them so that he pinned her on the bottom. Sakura's heart picked up its jagged beat, liking the way he was taking charge. Naruto dipped his head and took her in a so sexual and primal that Sakura thought that he would swallow her whole. She arched her back trying to push her body even closer to his. Both of their bodies burned in their heat. She had never felt this good before. Naruto broke there and Sakura moaned in desire. A toothy grin crossed the shinobi's face and he lightly her lips once more before his hands dropped down to her black shorts, pulling them off quickly. A satisfied growl escaped from his lips once he saw that she had the very same pair of black lacy underwear with red roses on the trim. "Na Naruto," Sakura called out, her voice pleading for something. But she herself didn't know what was to come next. Apparently Naruto did. He ran his calloused hands up her smooth abdomen and dipped under the lining of her bra. Sakura gasped as he took hold of her left breast and began to knead it. Oh, Kami, it felt like Sakura's body was on fire. He must have learned a thing or two from that Jiraiya during his training. She pulled the rest of her bra off and Naruto took the opportunity to clamp his mouth over her unoccupied nipple. A small moan escaped from Sakura's mouth and in response Naruto nipped the butt of her nipple, sweeping his tongue over the areola. Sakura's back arched as she felt Naruto's other hand leave her breast and trail fire down her abdomen to run over her panties. "Ah, Naruto," she moaned his name and Naruto lifted his mouth away from her breast and locked it onto hers. He swallowed her loud moan as he began to rub her mound through the thin lace. She didn't know what to do to make him get closer. One of her legs slipped between his thighs and lifted up, rubbing against him furtively. He was hard. Sakura could feel his warm member stiffen even more through the fabric. An idea sparked in her head, and she snaked one of her hands down between their bodies. Naruto's eyes opened right when she reached under his boxers. Sakura hesitated for only a moment before she wrapped her hand around his shaft and began to slowly pump him. "Ah," he moaned loudly, breaking there and pulling his hand away from her lower body as Sakura's hand felt him. "Please, Naruto," her voice was raspy, but it was audible all the same. She felt much more in control, asking him for what she wanted now. With the shinobi's face twisted in pleasure she felt powerful, and quite the seductress. What do you want me to do, Sakura?" Naruto's own voice was husky, trying to find his words through his cloudy mind. "You know what I want." Her grip tightened and she ran her thumb over the head of his where it was slick with pre-cum. A low growl rumbled deep in Naruto's throat in approval. He instantly hooked his fingers under her panties and pulled them down. Sakura pulled her hand away and gasped as he sat up on his knees. His hands were quick as he dropped his boxers down and pulled them away. Sakura's face darkened deeply with a blush. Naruto was gorgeous. Every inch of his body was pure liquid gold and the kunoichi wanted nothing but to eat him up. Naruto leaned down over Sakura, placing each of his hands on either side of her for support before he would go any closer. He looked to her so as to make sure this was all right and she nodded, the ball of fire in her stomach intensifying as she felt his brushing against her inner thighs. She moaned and he rubbed her gently at her entrance. "Oh Kami, Sakura, you're so wet." His breath warmed her skin and she wrapped her arms around his neck. Naruto teased her slowly, the head of his member rubbing her entrance. Sakura arched her back, her mouth opening in a cry for need. She pressed close to his to the point where the tip had pushed through the folds. She moaned softly, digging her nails into Naruto's back. Finally, the Uzumaki plunged in and his mouth clamped over Sakura, swallowing her screams. It hurt only for a moment. As soon as the pain came it left. And in its place came the most intense pleasure of the kunoichi's life. The walls past her mound wrapped around him tightly bringing them both to near insanity. Sakura bit Naruto's lower lip and sucked on it. Their lower bodies stood still for a moment while Naruto adjusted to the fit. And slowly he pulled out of Sakura, almost all the way out. She moaned in protest, but in the midst of her cries he plunged into her once more, making her gasp as he began to thrust harder, and faster. Sakura brought her legs up and hooked them over Naruto's lower back, bringing them even closer with each of his thrusts. She could feel that ball of fire growing, tightening in the pit of her stomach. Naruto's breath was becoming jagged, but he wasn't slowing down. He wrapped his arms around Sakura, lifting her up so that she was sitting right on him as he plunged into her. Sakura wrapped her arms around him and bucked her hips, intensifying the collision. Naruto growled in pleasure and the pink-haired woman smiled into the crook of his neck. Then he lowered his head and took one of Sakura's breasts into his mouth and sucked on her nipple wildly. Sakura kissed his neck and suckled on his skin, nipping him all along his collarbone as they made love. Suddenly Naruto thrust into her so far, he touched something that sent Sakura's mind spinning. Right there, she breathed into his ear. "Oh Kami, do it again." Her lover nibbled her ear in response and thrust himself repeatedly against that spot. Sakura felt her muscles tightening, a sweet shiver racing down her spine. All of a sudden she felt that tight ball of fire in the pit of her stomach explode into a million points of light and she was pushed over the edge. Her head tilted back and her fingers gripped his golden locks as she cried out. "Naruto." Naruto felt the walls in Sakura tighten around his as she reached her orgasm and he too was sent over the edge. He clutched onto Sakura, thrusting roughly into her as he realized his seed. He held onto her tightly, crying out her name. Slowly they both came down from their high and their eyes met once more. "Sakura-chan, Sakura leaned in to kiss Naruto lightly. Then she pulled back to sit down as he pulled out of her. Her body could feel him missing. But she kept her arms wrapped around him as if in a compromise with herself. Naruto smiled sweetly to her and they collapsed onto their blankets in content and exhaustion, sleep capturing the both of them immediately. Sakura woke up in complete warmth, having one of the best dreams of her life. She forgot about how great dreams could be ever since her nightmares took over. She looked outside to see the sun was barely rising. The kunoichi sat up and stretched her rather sore muscles and suddenly felt a chill across her body. She looked down and gasped. Sakura took a deep breath, trying to calm herself down. It was perfectly reasonable. In her dreams she sometimes kicked off her clothes, it happened. Sakura grabbed her clothes and got dressed, not once looking to Naruto. She was terrified of what she would see. But finally, as she pulled on her last item of clothing, there was no other choice. The pink-haired woman turned her head and held her breath as she looked to her teammate. Inside she already knew the answer. Naruto lied on his side, the back of his body glistening with a golden sheen of sweat. He snored loudly and turned over, revealing the lower half of his body. Sakura could feel all of the blood in her rush to her cheeks. There was a lazy smile on the Uzumaki's face as his arms stretched out in his sleep. Sakura could feel that familiar warmth in the pit of her stomach come to life. "Oh shit. Sakura-chan, why won't you look at me?" Naruto walked beside her as the team guided the wagon towards the port. It had been 4 days since that night, and Sakura felt like someone had dealt an infinite amount of blows to her stomach. The main reason was because he didn't remember. "Sakura-chan, please, look at me. What did I do?" He clasped his hands together in a pleading motion, his blue eyes near tears. "What didn't you do?" Sakura pushed her perverted thoughts away and turned her face away from the blonde. "Naruto, I don't feel like talking, okay? But, he looked distraught and it left Sakura torn. But she was livid, absolutely livid that he couldn't remember something like that. And yet at the same time she was miserable. Because she finally lost her virginity and she was the only one who could remember it. And the fact that it was with Naruto just baffled her. She talked with Tama that morning asking her what kind of fruit that she was given, knowing that was the cause of her heated passion. "It is merely a fruit from my old country that surfaces the feelings that one is suppressing." "Why? Did something happen last night?" A spark flickered in the gypsy's knowing eyes and Sakura immediately blushed. "I don't know what you're talking about. That night just confused her relationship with Naruto. What did she think of him? Was it love? Or was she just really fond of him? It was all just too confusing to think of right now. Just leave her alone, Dobi. She obviously doesn't want to talk to you. Sasuke walked alongside them, his dark eyes switching between the blonde-haired and pink-haired shinobi. Sakura sighed. She could smell the sea air as they approached the port and a slight anxiousness was present in her. They would be spending time together again. At least the awkwardness from Sasuke's fiasco was forgotten between the team after a few beatings, mainly between Naruto and Sasuke. But Sakura, and Tama, was the only one who knew what happened between her and Naruto. This day cation they were planning on taking was going to be interesting to say the least. Tama pulled her cart to a slow stop. This is where we part, my new friends. Sakura nodded, a small smile reaching her face. It was nice meeting you, Tama-chan. The gypsy jumped down from her wagon perch and walked to the back of the carriage. Follow me, please. Naruto looked to Sasuke and sneaked a look at Sakura. His eyes saddened every time he would look at her. Sasuke took the first steps forward and the other two followed. I would like to give you gifts, as a thank you for escorting me all the way to this port. She pulled away the partition and ruffled through the packages in the back. I don't want any of your love potions. Sasuke's face turned slightly paler, which Sakura could only guess was in thought of what happened not 1 week ago. No, the gypsy laughed. That would cost you 20,000 ryo. Before the ninja's jaws dropped to the ground, Tama pulled out 3 objects, a necklace, a dagger and a small coin. These objects will come of use to you in the future. She handed them their gifts. Sakura received the green amulet, Naruto the dagger, and Sasuke the bronze coin. All of these gifts are meant to do one thing: protect. Use them well. She closed the partition and climbed her wagon once more. I hope we can meet again, my friends. And I hope it will be in good humor. Bye Tama-chan. Naruto waved happily. He was excited about the aspect of a vacation, it was obvious. As the wagon blended into the crowded street, he turned to Sakura and Sasuke, his grin widening. Vacation time. Sakura strained a small smile. She hoped this would all pass over for her soon. Maybe she could even forget about what happened 4 nights ago. It was the next day the team decided to go to the local beach to spend their day cation and afterward leave for Konoha. The weather was brilliant even for this winter season they were in. The sun was shining, the waves were rolling and the sand was warm. It was all too perfect. Sakura-chan, it's nice out, huh? Naruto stood tall in only a pair of orange and black trimmed board shorts, his pelvic bone well defined with the low dip of the trunks. Sakura pulled her sweater over her, despite the blazing sun. It was winter, shouldn't it be cold? Sakura was wearing her red swimsuit, the one she bought with Ino last year. It was a little small, but it was the only one she had. The one piece was snug on her chest, the V-neck dipping suggestively low, and the strap was a halter style. Normally she would be tanning away, swimming and playing in the water, but she just didn't feel like showing off her body right now. Naruto caught wind of her mood. Nay, Sakura-chan, he plopped down beside her in the sand. What's going on? Sakura looked to the open sea and said nothing to him. What was she supposed to say? We made love 5 nights ago and only I remember that fantastic night. The kunoichi inwardly rolled her eyes and stood up, peeling her sweater off of her sweaty skin. Maybe she could do with some swimming. She turned around and found her blonde friend's eyes glued to her body, his pupils dilated to inhuman circumferences. Ehem. Sakura coughed, catching Naruto off guard. He lightly laughed. Sorry Sakura-chan. You look hot. Sakura instantly smacked Naruto upside the head. Pervert. Ow, 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 ow. I'm sorry Sakura-chan. I was just being a guy. He rubbed the back of his head, laughing. Kami. Sakura wanted to kill him so much. Feel better. He stood up next to her, his toothy grin spreading wide across his face. What? Well, you haven't hit me in a long time, so I thought you were really mad at me. I didn't know what I did to make you mad. But whatever it was, I'm sorry. He was sincere, but for some reason, it did not make Sakura feel better at all. The two sat there looking out to the sea, lost in a moment of silence. Hey, Dobi, how about some volleyball? And in an instant Naruto ran off. I'm gonna kick your. Sakura rolled her eyes and rested her head onto her drawn-up knees. So much for the vacation. Sakura, get your out of that bathroom. I'm not going to be late to my own bachelorette party. Ino slammed on the bathroom door, but Sakura ignored the blonde's angry protests. It had been 2 weeks since her mission had ended and 3 weeks since that night with Naruto. She hadn't told a soul about what had happened, not even Ino, which surprised her. They shared everything. Sakura, I will break this fucking door down if you don't get your out of that bathroom. I want to spend my last few moments as a single girl drunk off my. And you being my best friend, I want you there alongside me getting wasted. Sakura sighed, looking at herself in the mirror. She pulled her pink tresses back into a small ponytail, and applied black eyeliner and lip gloss. That should be enough. Sakura wasn't a big makeup girl like Ino was with her foundation, eyeshadow, mascara, and whatever else the drawers in her bathroom were crammed with. Sakura pulled the top of her strapless short black dress up so that her cleavage wasn't flamboyantly showing. The lace trim on her dress gave her a flirty look. Ino had told her that when they bought their dresses. Sakura disagreed. She felt so ugly and fat. But no matter what, she was going to Ino's bachelorette party. Her best friend was getting married in a month. The kunoichi could hardly believe it. And soon, Sakura knew without a doubt, within days after the ceremony, she would be talking about a baby on the way. Another one of her friends was blooming, while she was still a bud. I'm coming. Sakura stepped out of the bathroom, her black high-heeled sandals clicking. She wanted to get this over with as fast as humanly possible. Finally, Ino grabbed Sakura's hand and pulled her out of her apartment and towards the local bar where the bachelorette party was just starting. Cheers to Ino! Voices shouted throughout the pub, ringing in Sakura's ears. She clanged her glass of Shirley Temple to others' glasses, her smile half sincere. She was happy for Ino, really she was. But she just didn't feel like drinking. She wasn't that big of a drinker anyway, and thankfully with Hinata pregnant, she wasn't alone on the sober train. It should be a show, watching them slowly get drunk. Hinata giggled in her seat next to Sakura's. Slowly. I personally think they're racing to a blackout. Sakura laughed, taking a small sip from her drink. She really wasn't kidding. Ino, Ten, Kurenai, and Anko were shooting sake like their lives depended on it. Sakura would have to keep a close eye on her friend. The pub wasn't entirely rented out, to Ino's request. She wanted to scope out as many men as she possibly could. And to Sakura's horror, it seemed even with the high amount of females attending the party, men seemed to outnumber them in the local bar. Sakura-kun. Hinata's voice caught her attention. Yes, Hinata. Is something wrong? You seem different. Her pale eyes scanned Sakura as if trying to find what was different about her. Different. Sakura pushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Not that I know of. Alright, ladies. Suddenly a man in a Junin outfit appeared in front of the girls' group, and twirled a kunai around his finger. Which one of you is the bachelorette? I am. Ino was already drunk. Kami, Sakura thought, she would have to be on duty early on in the night. Well then, you've been naughty. It looks like this shinobi needs to teach you a lesson. And in one smooth move, the man took the kunai and slit his clothes off, leaving on a dark blue G-string with the Hidden Leaf Village symbol on his crotch. Whistles rang throughout the room and Ino waved her drink around happily. Ah, you guys. You shouldn't have. Ino giggled as the stripper gyrated in front of her, that G-string holding on for dear life. Are you kidding? You would have killed us if we didn't get you a stripper. Ten giggled, her drink spilling slightly onto her chest. Sakura whirled back around in her chair to face the bar. I really don't want to see this. I know how you feel. Hinata's face was a dark red. Would you like a peanut, Sakura? She held a bowl out to the kunoichi. I just can't get enough of them. Sakura looked down at the bowl and the smell of the peanuts hit her nostrils. Ugh, are those rotten? She covered her nose and felt her stomach quiver. What the hell was Hinata thinking eating those rank peanuts? Even with her cravings, there has to be a limit. Like edibility. They seem perfectly fine to me. Here, try one. She held the bowl out to Sakura and the smell was just overpowering her senses. Sakura could feel her stomach lurch in protest. I think I'm going to be sick. Sakura jumped up and ran to the girls' bathroom, slamming the stall door open and sending her Shirley Temples and the dinner right back out of her mouth and into the toilet. What was going on? She never hated peanuts that much. And the only smell that had ever made her throw up was the smell of a corpse when she was training with Tsunade a few years back. But she was desensitized to it now. She sat down on the bathroom floor, her breath shaky. She wiped her mouth and coughed. Her thoughts were flying everywhere. What had she eaten in the past few hours that would give her this kind of reaction? She ate some pork ramen. Maybe the meat was bad. No, the shop owner would never allow bad meat to go into his ramen. Besides, the symptoms of food poisoning were different to what she had. And all she could think that triggered her sickness were those peanuts. What was going? No. Sakura gasped and jumped up. It had only been 3 weeks, but surely it wouldn't. It made sense, but then all of this would depend upon what the date was. Damn it, for the life of her, Sakura couldn't remember the date. She stood up and rushed out of the bathroom and to the bar. Hinata. Sakura, what's wrong? What's the date today? Her heart was racing. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be happening. What? I believe it's the 5th. The 5th, the 5th, the 5th. All the blood drained from Sakura's face. Her breath hitched and her knees buckled. Then everything went black. Sakura-chan. Sakura-chan. I can't believe you passed out during my party. Billboard brow. Sakura could hear Ino's voice, but everything was still dark. She felt something cool and wet press against her forehead and felt her pounding headache slowly subside. She slowly began to open her eyes to a blur of colors. Sakura. Sakura. Oh, billboard brow. She was in a tight embrace that forced the air out of her lungs. Ino. Can't breathe. Oh, sorry. She let Sakura go, and gradually the pink-haired woman's sight came back. She was in her own apartment. It was still night. You gave everyone quite a scare, billboard. Ino helped Sakura sit up, propping the pillow behind her. What happened to you? Hinata said that you ran to the bathroom and came back asking about the date. Suddenly the night's events rushed back into Sakura's mind. Shit. Tears began to stream down her face and she tried to wipe them away, but they were coming too fast. This was all wrong. This couldn't be happening to her. But, Sakura, what's wrong? Ino wrapped her arms around Sakura, rubbing her hand across her back. You can tell me. I'm your friend. Sakura sobbed into Ino's shoulder, scared of what was going to happen. She didn't know what to do, how to say it. But one thing was for sure, she needed a friend right now more than anything. Ino. She sat up straight and looked into Ino's pale blue eyes. What I am about to tell you cannot leave this room. Billboard brow. Promise me, she said. Sakura. Just promise me, okay. The blonde's eyes widened, but she nodded in agreement. Sakura took a deep breath, knowing no matter what happened there was no going back now. Ino, I'm pregnant. Sakura Haruno had never pictured herself in this type of situation. In all of her years as a ninja, she thought there was a higher chance of dying. But there she was, sitting on her bed, waiting for Ino's reaction to this shocking secret. You're pregnant. Ino repeated more to herself than to Sakura it seemed. The pink-haired Kunoichi's hands held tightly onto her sheets, nerves getting the better of the situation. Hearing those words from someone else made it all seem too real. There was something growing inside of her, and that something that would eventually become a living human being. It would walk and talk, smile and laugh, scream and cry. They would have a name, hopes, fears, and... Sakura, calm down, you're starting to hyperventilate. She felt Ino's hand rub her back in slow soothing circles, relaxing her. Sakura began to laugh, though her tears were still fresh and running. Ino, I'm going to have a baby. Sakura leaned her head onto her friend's shoulder, a feeling of complete helplessness sinking into her. I know. Ino struggled with her next words, but she took a deep breath and looked to Sakura, who's the father? Sakura knew this was coming, the obvious question linked hand in hand with her secret. Naruto's face came into her mind. It was such a clear and vivid image, his golden hair shooting up in every direction, his golden skin, fox-like whisker marks that seemed to be his trademark next to his toothy grin, of course. And those eyes, Sakura would never, in all the rest of her life, forget those eyes. They were the clearest blue, rivaling that of the afternoon sky. I'm not ready. At least tell me one thing about him. Ino was being persistent, but Sakura didn't know what to say. Any characteristic of Naruto would give him away, especially if she told the infamous Ino, the cataloger of all men in Konoha. With just a few details, she could say if the man was single, who he slept or had slept with, and where he lived. What do you want me to say, Ino? The blonde paused for a moment and her hand slowed in its calming massage on Sakura's back. She smirked. Was the fantastic? Sakura was stunned only for a moment, her mind shocked blank. Then, ever so slowly, a small smile appeared on the kunoichi's face and Sakura laughed. Ino started to giggle along, and soon they were gasping for air, holding onto each other for support. Tears streamed down both of their faces, a mixture of sorrow and anxiety. So what are you going to do? Ino sat at the kitchen table as Sakura began bustling around her cupboards. Sakura needed to keep her mind busy, so she opted for making tea for the two of them. Her mind raced through all of the options, and none of them seemed even slightly sympathetic to her. She would have to eventually tell everyone that she was pregnant. Her growing body would be proof of that alone. But what was going to happen when people began to ask the same question that came from Ino, who's the father? What about Naruto? He didn't even remember that they had. Would he believe that she was pregnant? That the baby was his? What about work? What would she do when she was incapable of going on missions or even performing the simplest of surgeries because of her physical state? Tsunade was going to kill her. People in the town were going to spread rumors, wondering why she wasn't with the father. Sakura, Ino's voice brought her back down to earth. I know what you're thinking, and you need to calm down and take a deep breath. Just figure out what you're going to do first. What am I supposed to do? Ino an eyebrow, and snorted, well, aren't you Konoha's #1 medic nin? Shouldn't you already know the answer to that question? Sakura sighed. Ino was completely right. If anything, Sakura could look at this like the medic nin she was. She was pregnant, so like any patient of hers she would recommend prenatal vitamins, exercise, a constant good night's sleep, and no alcohol or tobacco. Okay. There it was. Her first few steps. How am I supposed to get the prenatal vitamins I need? Well, not all prenatal vitamins are prescription, billboard brow. We can go get some from the market, and I'll just say they're for me when Shika and I decide to have a baby. Sakura put her cup of tea down and took hold of Ino's hand, squeezing it gently. What would I do without you, Ino pig? The pig rolled her eyes. Of course you would suffer a horrible death. I am your savior, billboard brow. Do not forget that. Ino smiled haughtily but squeezed Sakura's hand back. At least for the moment, Sakura felt like there was hope even if it was minuscule, it was still there, thanks to Ino. Good morning Miss Yamanaka, Miss Haruno. The local market owner greeted the two as they walked through the entrance. Sakura looked to Ino, her hands slightly shaking. Ino smiled, reassuring her pink-haired friend and then turned to the older man. Good morning Hokkaido-san. Where do you stock your prenatal vitamins? Oh, they're in the back. Jiro Hokkaido, a man 20 years their senior, was the village market owner. To the benefit of the women, he never gave much attention to what items one bought, unlike so many of the gossiping shop owners in Konoha. Ino and Sakura took their steps carefully back towards the vitamins, wanting to draw as little attention as possible. The shopkeeper might have tight lips, but the same didn't go for the customers. Sakura could feel her heart quicken as they stepped closer to the aisle. Here, Ino gently led her to stand in front of a row of the vitamins, and Sakura's eyes scanned them all, her nerves calming. Hermetic nin state of mind was taking over. There were quite a few that would suit, but some had too high of an iron count or vitamin A, and that wouldn't be helpful. She would need the type that would give an extra boost of calcium along with her other needed vitamins. Finally, the kunoichi picked a brand and handed it to Ino. Here you go. This should fit with your needs. Ino and Sakura had rehearsed their lines to perfection, because Kami knew that there would be eavesdroppers. Good. Ino and Sakura made their way up to the register and paid for the item. It was going flawlessly. No one had stopped them or, from the looks of it, had paid too much attention to them. Sakura took the vitamins from the cashier, wrapped the purchase and handed it to Ino. The blonde promptly put the item into her purse. Let's go, billboard brow. I want to get something to eat. The two girls then stepped out of the market and it was like someone lifted 2 tons of weight off of Sakura's shoulders. She felt relieved. Kami, there wasn't a word strong enough to describe the relief that stilled Sakura's heart and mind. So, Ino looked to Sakura, the feeling of success evident in her eyes as well. Where did you want to eat, billboard ow? Someone pushed past Ino, knocking her into Sakura. Thankfully, they caught themselves before any more attention could be brought upon them. You stupid son of a Shika. Ino's cheeks turned a bright tomato red as her fiancé stood a few feet from her, an apologetic look on his face. The blood in Sakura's face drained as she painfully stood behind, the invisible weight dropping right back down onto her shoulders. Ino, Shikamaru sounded surprised. Not a good sign. What are you doing here? I thought you would still be in bed with a hangover. Sakura could tell the genius was breaking down every possible detail around him, figuring out just what was going on. He would most likely give a correct assumption if Ino didn't distract him. I couldn't drink, the blonde lied smoothly. I was thinking about your bachelor party, wondering what woman was sticking their disgusting hands all over you. Sakura almost snorted with laughter. Ino was confident that Shika would never think about another woman the rest of his life with her beside him. Mostly due to threats towards all the females that inhabited Konoha. The poor shinobi would never be approached by another woman the rest of his life. Ah, well, the lazy genius rubbed the back of his head. Other women are just too troublesome. And Sakura could see the slightest hint of a blush appear on the man's face. He was truly sweet, in his own unconventional way. Shikamaru, Ino took hold of Shika's hand and a smile crept onto the kunoichi's face. Oh no, Sakura was going to have to step in, otherwise this would lead to a romp. It had happened before, and it would happen again. No one could forget that night 1 month ago when they were going at it in the middle of the local pub. It still brought chills to all who were there. Ino, we should get going. Oh, yes, we should. And then Shikamaru's attention shifted to Sakura. The kunoichi smiled, nodding in polite salutation, but her conscience screamed obscenities for placing the unwanted spotlight onto her. Sakura, I haven't seen you in a while. You look different. The genius, keen eyes sharpened suddenly. Hey, Sakura. Shit. Well, Shika, we have to get going. See you later, bye. Ino took Sakura's hand and yanked her away, in a not-so-subtle exit. Did you see his face back there? Sakura sat at a table inside of a restaurant, ignoring the menu laid out in front of her. Oh, Kami. Ino growled. He was doing his genius figure out every damn thing so that I know what the fuck's going magic. Oh, thank you. The waitress brought them their cups of water, and paused. Are you ready to? No. The women replied in unison. The waitress rolled her eyes and walked away. Who cared what she thought? Sakura had more important things to think about at the moment. I just might be screwed, Ino. You just might be right, billboard brow. Ino put her menu down. Damn it. We were so close. So close. He'll know, without a doubt. Sakura covered her face with her hands. She was screwed. The somewhat formulated plan of telling people herself about being pregnant just collapsed before her like a house of cards. Now that Shikamaru knew, oh, the people he could tell. Wait. This might be good. Ino gripped one of Sakura's arms tightly. This just might work in our favor, billboard brow. What are you talking about, pig? Sakura slowly sipped the cool water from the cup placed in front of her. Shikamaru might know that you're pregnant, but he doesn't know who the father is. Ino's face slightly twisted in annoyance, just like me. Sakura sighed. Ino, Sakura-chan. Sakura choked on her water and began to cough loudly, her face turning a bright red. Ino looked at her for merely a moment, a dazed look on her face. Then suddenly, no fucking. Ino clamped her mouth shut, though her eyes were still as wide as saucers. Ino tossed Sakura a napkin and moved to sit right beside the coughing Kunoichi. Ino gripped a handful of Sakura's shirt, yanking on it. You have some explaining to do, Haruno. She whispered right into the Kunoichi's ear, but Sakura was more preoccupied with someone else at the moment and chose to ignore the pale blonde's words. For now. The Uzumaki came in and paused at the entrance. Sakura noted that the shinobi had the dagger Tama had given him during their mission strapped to his belt. It reminded her of the amulet she received and the coin their other teammate had gotten. And almost immediately, like a cruel joke, Sasuke walked in, followed by Choji, Kiba, Hinata, and Shikamaru. If it were humanly possible, Sakura's face turned a paler shade of white. This was not going to be her day. Sakura-chan. Naruto sat down across from her at their table while the rest followed suit, sitting in their own spots. Shikamaru took a spot next to Ino, his eyes locking onto his fiancée's. The pink-haired woman could only imagine what was wordlessly passing between the two at that moment. Man, I'm hungry. I haven't eaten in 2 whole hours. Choji sat down at the table, grabbing one of the menus, his eyes scanning its contents. Waitress. Here, Hinata. Let me get that chair for you. Kiba pulled back one of the chairs for his very pregnant wife and Hinata blushed, nodding in thanks as she sat down. Nay, Sakura-chan, what's wrong? You look like you ate a bad bowl of ramen. Oh, I've had those pains before, Choji chuckled. Oh, and nothing, Naruto. The pink-haired woman mumbled, I'm perfectly fine. Really? Sasuke smirked, taking a seat next to his orange-clad teammate. He seemed to be enjoying her small panic attack. You do seem a bit odd. Sakura's eye twitched in annoyance. Her infamous anger was triggered. It's none of your business, Sasuke. She grabbed her cup of water and downed the rest of its contents. Stupid Sasuke's damned intuitiveness was not helping the situation. Sakura would need to keep her wits about her. Never mind that Naruto sat 2 feet from her, oblivious to damn near anything. Or that Shikamaru might have told all of these people of his suspicions. There was no way in hell she was going to let anyone find out. The Uchiha and eyebrow, clearly not convinced. I need to go freshen up. Ino stood up and looked to her side. Sakura. Her eyes glinted with her hidden words. You are coming with me right now whether you like it or not. The Kunoichi stood up and followed her friend, wondering what she was going to do, or how she was going to explain anything. I can't believe it. Ino laughed so loud, Sakura was sure that they could be heard. Ino, keep your voice down. I can't. Ino chuckled, but lowered her voice as asked, I can't believe you did it with that idiot. You really? She gasped for air between her muffled laughs. He's father. He's the fath. Sakura clamped her hand over Ino's mouth. Keep your voice down, pig. I don't want anyone to. Damn it. Sakura could feel her eyes stinging and her voice going hoarse. She was about to cry. MPHRHPHM. Ino moved the Kunoichi's hand away and clarified herself. Sakura, I have 2 things to tell you. One of them you might not like, well, you might not want to hear either, but that's beside the point. You need to tell him. And second, what made you change your mind on guarding your precious flower? Sakura was distraught. Ino was already knee-deep, so she might as well dive the rest of the way into this ocean of madness. So the Kunoichi began to tell the blonde what happened that night, starting with the gypsy and ending with Naruto's mental lapse of their time together. She told her story. And through it all, Ino said not one word, though her facial expressions compensated well enough. Her anger was evident by the end. I'm gonna kill him. Simple as that. I'll rip his off and toss it to Akamaru to chew on. Ino glared through the bathroom door, towards the unsuspecting shinobi. Sakura wouldn't put it past her to follow through with that threat. Ino, please, it's already hard enough for me to tell you this, and it was. It took Sakura all of her strength to tell Ino about Naruto, but in a strange way, she felt better. Now that the pig knew about Naruto, she could help Sakura avoid. Avoid. Was that what she wanted? To completely ignore the Uzumaki. Sakura ran shaking fingers through her pink tresses. This was all too much, too fast. We need to get out of here, billboard brow. But I'll only tell you this one more time. You need to sit that idiot down and tell him what's going on before he hears it from someone else. You won't. No. Ino shook her head. I would never do that to you. As much as you piss me off sometimes, you are still my best friend. But think this through, billboard brow. You're going to be growing, and people will question you, and if you don't answer, rumors will spread. They'll look to the men closest to you, Sasuke, Kakashi, Naruto. It's going to be messy either way, but Sakura never thought about it that way, and her heart dropped. I have to tell him, don't I? Ino didn't reply, because she didn't need to. There was no other way around it. Sakura was going to have to tell Naruto that they were going to have a baby. But first she needed to convince him that they had. Sakura, what is it, Ino? Do you love him? There was that question again. One that not only her friends asked her, but it was the very same question that raging conscience within the pink kunoichi screamed almost every day. Damn it. Answer me. Sakura didn't know how to answer herself. Did she? The gypsy Tama said that the fruit she consumed revealed her true feelings. Did that mean she loved Naruto, or was only sexually attracted to him? She couldn't deny the physical attraction that she had towards the blonde shinobi anymore, that much was obvious. But did her affection run deeper than mere physicality? The only thing she had to compare this confusing feeling towards Naruto was her longtime crush on Sasuke. But there was just an infinite amount of differences between those situations. When Sakura was crazy over the Uchiha, she swore to anyone who would listen that it was love. But in retrospect, all it seemed to be was an obsession, like he was some toy she could never get her hands on. The pink-haired woman felt ashamed after all her wasted years, pining over a man who would never love anyone. He was cold, distant, and spiteful towards her. Then there was Naruto. Sakura had never been treated so well by a boy before. She never knew what to make of him. As a young ninja, he would constantly talk to her, interrupting the kunoichi's Sasuke-themed fantasies, so she dubbed him as loud and annoying. Despite her show of anger towards the blonde boy, he never snapped at her. Naruto always had a smile just for her and an offer for ramen at Ichiraku. He saved her life so many times that Sakura had lost count by now. Whenever they were together, it seemed natural and just right. Where Sasuke had burned a hole into her heart, Naruto filled her aching need to be loved. There should be no question about her feelings toward the man, but maybe the real question you should be asking is if I'm ready to fall in love. Sakura's voice was hoarse as she looked to Ino, her tears drying up. The blonde kunoichi laughed. Billboard brow, I can tell you from personal experience that love doesn't give a flying fuck if you're ready or not. There was a knock on the bathroom door. Sakura-kun. Ino-kun. Are you guys alright in there? Whoops. They took too long. Yeah. We'll be right out, Hinata. Ino fixed up her hair and makeup, and looked to Sakura. You'd better wash that face of yours. You look like shit. Sakura growled back at her, but laughed anxiously. Sakura would have to tell him, as simple as that. She might not understand her feelings completely, but she owed it to Naruto to tell him what was going on. Sakura, open up, it's Ino. Okay. She chickened out. It's been 4 weeks since she told her friend Ino about her pregnancy, and she avoided Naruto like the plague. Every time he would come by the hospital, she would grab some paperwork and run off, saying she was too busy to talk. Lies, lies, lies. And on several occasions, he came to her house demanding to know what he did to make her mad at him. But she never answered her door, too terrified to tell him what was really wrong with her. Now it was the day before Ino's wedding and here she was, sitting on her couch, feasting on mint chocolate chip ice cream with jelly. The kunoichi got up and opened the door, a sheepish look on her face. "Hi, Ino. How's it? Don't give me that bull crap of a greeting, billboard. What the hell is going through your mind? Do you know I'm getting married tomorrow?" The blonde carried in a big box into the apartment and dropped it onto the floor, and a certain pink-haired friend of mine didn't even show up for the fitting. "You are so lucky I know your size, billboard brow." Ino growled, kneeling down beside the box and promptly opened it. She reached inside and pulled out a deep crimson dress. "Since you, Sakura, owe me, Ino, big time, you shall abide by my rules. I am, after all, the bride, and you are my maid of honor." Sakura nodded. "God, your cravings are disgusting. Throw that ice cream away." The pink-haired kunoichi complied. Ino was serious, and there was no way Sakura was going to piss her off a day before the ceremony. Rule number 1. You are to wear this tomorrow. Ino handed Sakura the dress. 2. I will be doing your makeup, no questions asked. Rule number 3. You will dance, you will laugh, and you will have fun. I will not have my maid of honor acting gloomy on the most important day of my life. Do you understand? Yes, Ino. Sakura rubbed her stomach and looked at the dress. I'm going to look so ugly. Well, next to me, of course. Ino laughed, but stopped once she saw the kunoichi sadden. Sakura, you will be perfectly fine. I am doing your makeup. Therefore, when I am done with you, you'll look like a total goddess. I would have nothing less at my own wedding. Sakura didn't reply. Have you been taking your vitamins? Ino took the red dress from Sakura and wrapped it in its plastic cover. Yes. Eating right. The blonde noted the strange food concoction she had her toss and a blush came over the pink-haired woman. Well, for the most part, yes. Have you been getting enough sleep? Sakura coughed. Yes. Real answer. Not at all. Her nightmares have gotten worse over the past month, each one more gruesome and bloody. She would wake up drenched in sweat, wondering why the hell those stupid sprigs of thyme and rock of amethyst weren't working. She even wore the green amulet Tama gave her. It was small and subtle, but the gypsy said it was for protection. Sakura had hoped it would protect her from the dreams, but they came every night like clockwork. It seemed as if nothing was going to rid her of those horrible images. Well, maybe you should go to sleep now, just in case. Oh, and use these. Ino tossed her a bag of skin creams. They'll get rid of those bags under your eyes. Thanks. The kunoichi retorted. Whatever, billboard. There will be pictures, and I will not have you looking like a zombie. Now go to bed and get some sleep. You're going to need it. Alright, Ino pig, I'll go to sleep. Now you go. Shouldn't you get some sleep too? Ino paused at the door and looked back to Sakura. Have you told him yet? Sakura picked up the ridiculously big bag of cosmetic creams. Number. Ino sighed. Alright, billboard. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Do not be late. I'm not like my sensei, pig. I'll be early. As soon as she closed the door, Sakura felt exhaustion consume her. Going to sleep really sounded like a good idea, despite how early in the evening it was. As soon as the kunoichi's head hit the pillow, she was out like a light. Sakura, there's no need to play this game. All you need to do is give us what we want. The medic nin was crouched low in a cold, dark room. The voice came from all around her, so she wasn't able to pinpoint their position to attack. Nevertheless, her grip tightened around her kunai, her muscles coiled to spring at any given moment. She would not let them win. She would never give them what they wanted. It was her reason for living now, the motivation to keep moving, keep breathing, even with the numerous wounds on her body. She would not give up. Then she sensed it behind her. Sakura whipped around, reaching to her most precious object before they got to it. Too late. Mama, that voice called out, stirring her. Her blood boiled and she thrashed at the empty air, and a low chuckle rumbled through her very bones. You should have given us what we wanted while you still had the chance. Now we'll kill the both of you. Sakura's heart clenched. No. Sakura shot up in her bed, gasping for air. Her dreams have taken a new turn. They not only surrounded her death, but her unborn child's as well. Ino, you put too much makeup on me. No, I didn't billboard, you look fine. Now shut up and help me get through this damn door. That next morning, after a rather unpleasant episode of Sakura getting painted with Kami knows what on her face, Ino, Sakura, Tenten, Hinata, and Tamari got dressed in their outfits for the ceremony. They were supposed to leave that minute, but it seemed Ino was having some trouble with her princess-cut dress. The gown had a very puffy skirt, no straps, long train. And it was perfect for Ino. Now only if Sakura could help her get through the damn door. 10-10, push down the right side, and I'll get the left. Tamari, pick up her train so that it doesn't get dirty or trampled on. Hinata, you go get her veil and bouquet. Yes sir. 10-10 joked and the other girls laughed. They all did what they were asked and somehow, they got Ino out of the apartment and to the chapel where they were holding the ceremony. Everything was going smoothly until. Oh Kami! Ino screamed at the top of her lungs, making the 3 bridesmaids and the maid of honor jump. What's wrong, Ino? 10-10 scanned the bride, looking for injuries. I forgot my garter. I need my garter. Otherwise what is Shika going to do when he has to take it from my leg? Isn't that the lacy thing he pulls off with his teeth? Tamari smirked. His teeth. Hinata blushed furiously. Her wedding was more of an Eastern-style wedding, whilst Ino wanted hers to be Western. Sakura could only imagine the embarrassment Hinata would have had to endure if Kiba had to pull a garter off of her leg using only his teeth. Yes. And I had it with me. I think I left it back in the dressing room. Sakura, could you go and get it? Okay. Sakura brushed a strand of her pink hair back into place and made her way back to the dressing rooms. Thankfully she knew where Ino had left the garter, right on top of the vanity next to her enormous box of makeup. The kunoichi snatched the garment and made her way back to the entrance of the chapel. She almost reached the room when suddenly she felt a pair of hands wrap around her and pull her into a dark room. The mysterious figure pushed her up against a wall, pressing onto her arms as they leaned over her. Sakura began to build chakra in her hands, ready to knock this person into the next room. This was no, the kunoichi gasped. That smoky masculine scent, she could never forget that smell. Naruto. Sakura's heart raced. She could feel a deep blush coming over her cheeks. What are you doing, Baka? Sakura-chan, I'm sorry for doing this, but you've been avoiding me for over a month. This was the only way to get you to talk to me. His breath was warm on the nape of Sakura's neck. He was so close he must be able to tell how hard her pulse was pounding. Sakura pushed against his hold, but he held strong. The kunoichi couldn't find the will in her to use her chakra against him, so she remained in his clutches. Naruto, this was insane. She couldn't talk to him here. Not now. Sakura-chan, just please tell me what I did to you. I can't stand having you mad at me. His head lowered to rest on the kunoichi's shoulders and his hands dropped down her arms, gently caressing her. Just, please, tell me what I did. His gesture was completely innocent, something he most likely thought of as nothing, yet for Sakura, it almost drove her over the edge. She felt a cool shiver run down her spine at his slight touch. The tortured woman bit her lip, preventing a moan escaping from her mouth. Naruto, she couldn't believe herself, she was actually through with it. The things this man could make her do. Do you remember that mission we had not too long ago? The Uzumaki's head lifted slightly, when we escorted Tama-chan to the port. Hi, I remember. Sakura took a deep breath, wondering how she could explain this to him, that first night, after Sasuke. I really don't want to remember that, Sakura-chan. After that, Baka. When, the kunoichi took a deep breath, when we slept in the same tent. Sakura's body felt so warm with his body radiating heat onto her. Every inch of her skin was itching to touch him once more, to feel his taut body below her fingers. What had Naruto done to her? Naruto shifted slightly and stepped away from her, And through the dark Sakura could see him rub the back of his head. Why yeah. I remember that. Her heart felt like a hammer, it was pounding so strongly, and, that night. After we went to sleep, do you? Sakura. Tenten's voice was not far off as she called to the kunoichi, Sakura. Where are you? Ino's starting to worry. Tenten was most likely under-exaggerating. The blonde bride was probably strangling a nearby guest out of impatience and anger. Sakura sighed and looked to Naruto. This was obviously not going to be the day she told him. I'll leave first. You go later. She mumbled and began to walk out until she felt a gentle but firm grip on her wrist. Sakura, are you still mad at me? His voice was low, so that the approaching woman couldn't hear them through the door. Sakura shook her head. No. As much as I want to be, I could never stay mad at you for long, it was all too true. The kunoichi then slipped out of Naruto's grip and walked out of the dark room. Tenten, I'm here. I found the garter. Sakura, get your over here. Ino whispered harshly, and the kunoichi immediately walked over. What is it, pig? You told him, didn't you? The blonde had taken off her massive veil and had it tossed aside for the massive reception they were holding at Konoha's public park. The ceremony had gone without a hitch, although Ino's vows were a bit unconventional. Shika, from the moment I first met you, I thought you were the laziest ninja in this kami-forsaken village. But throughout the years whenever in battle, you gave it your all, just to protect your team. And when you finally stopped thinking of me as troublesome. Stopped. Ow. Shika shook out his bruised fingers and tentatively took hold of Ino's hand once again. Sorry. When you stopped thinking of me as troublesome and asked me out that first night together was absolutely amazing. Oh, Kami. The things a genius could. Sakura didn't want to remember past that point. It only got worse. Answer me, billboard brow. You told him, right? No. I almost did, but no. Are you sure? Ino looked to where Naruto was standing, munching on the food at the buffet table with Choji. He's been looking at you the entire day, like he's been thinking. Naruto never looks like he's concentrating. Ino. Sakura growled. Contrary to that stupid pig's assumption, Naruto was actually quite intelligent, but sometimes he acted like a 10-year-old. Look, maybe he actually does remember that night. Maybe he just thinks that you don't remember it. That's stupid. Oh come on, billboard brow. Just tell him, for Kami's sake. Make it my wedding gift. I already bought you a wedding gift, pig. Ino's eyes sparkled with interest. Really? What did you get me? You damn well know what I got you. You gave a list to each of us, demanding that we buy you the item written on there, or we were not allowed to show our faces at the wedding. Sakura rolled her eyes in annoyance. She remembered having to go purchase that dinnerware set from the most expensive Chinaware store in the village. It cost the medic nin nearly more than half her paycheck. Ino giggled lightly and wrapped Sakura in a tight embrace. I know about that, Sakura, but I really just want you to be happy. And I want you to tell that baka that you are preg shit. What? Pregnant? Sakura's heart dropped. This was impossible. If only Ino kept her mouth shut. The kunoichi turned around, a smile failing to reach her eyes. Ahaya gozaimasu, tsunade shiso. Sakura, I am only going to ask you this once. Tsunade's eyes sharpened intensely, her voice lowering so that no one around them could hear. Are you pregnant? Quote.